Hey everyone, in this video I'll be sharing my exciting summer internship experience at an architecture firm. I worked on designing residential apartments, creating models of well-known buildings, and gained invaluable hands-on experience using industry standard software like SketchUp. Join me as I take you along through my internship highlights and the lessons I learned.
So the roof plan, because that one actually show like what's going on above, because nobody will be performing on anything rain or beat, and then it's not gonna work.
So our first project, Project A, entailed doing some research on an architect and choosing a building that they've done to make a model of. So we had to go to get some materials, and on the way Dominic was kind of talking us through the different materials that one uses for different projects and different models.
We have a very thick pastel, and you use the string and you pull it and you pull it, and you sort of, instead of you don't shorten it because it keeps this sort of aesthetic.
So the architect I chose was Zaha Hadid, who was a Iraqi British architect, and the building I chose was the Haydar Aliyev Center in Baku, Azerbaijan. The first thing I did for this project was the PowerPoint presentation, which I didn't get any footage of, but here you see me tracing and outlining and cutting cardboard, because the way that I approached building this model was basically doing cardboard structures throughout the building and then layering the roof on top of it, because it's a very fluid shape. And so I had to trace out the sections of the building and transfer that onto the cardboard and cut those out, which would form the internal structures of the building. In terms of materials used, I used foam core for the base, and obviously for the internal structures, as I mentioned, the cardboard was used. For the actual roof material, or skin as they call it, I used sketch tissue, which is almost like a sort of parchment paper. So it's thin, and I cut it up into strips and I glued it almost like paper mache onto the top of these structures. And then for a more aesthetic finish, I used white felt and I scored the top of it to give the appearance of the panels. For Project B, I was required to make a mass and structural component of a cone, cylinder, cube, square-based pyramid, and a tetrahedron at the scale 1:50. For the mass model, I had to draw the developments of the shape on cartridge paper to scale and cut them out with the flaps at the side so they could glue together well. And then for the structural components, I used wooden skewers and hot glue. I did encounter some problems with stability, because I would finish a shape and then put it flat against the table and realize that it was rocking around. So I did have to restart my cube because of that. But I think the key for its structural integrity is the cross bracing that I used. And then it was presentation day. Now, it isn't that dramatic, but I was told that architectural critiques are very, very precise and very strict, so I was really preparing for the worst. As you can see, my architect of choice was Zaha Hadid. So let's get into this. It's a very information-laden presentation, so sit back and relax. So I think the Project A presentation went really well for the most part. I did get some minor feedback It was a little bit wordy, and I had a lot of information in my PowerPoint. I mean, my PowerPoint was 30 odd slides, and there was some numbering on the sites and the floor plans that were a little bit confusing, so I could have improved on that. Also, I was reading off of the slide a lot, and though I did provide some additional information, I could have done a little bit less of the reading off of the slide and kind of giving my own approach on things. Also, this picture at the end of my presentation sparked a very interesting conversation about the political and historical stance of Azerbaijan and the impact of this building, which I thought was cool. So Project B presentations were done on the same day, and I think I got pretty good feedback for it. They did say that my shapes were fairly well constructed, which I count as a win. And they spoke about the fact that though buildings can be reduced to simple shapes, obviously the shape is not the be-all and end-all of the building, because you also have to take into account the wind and the seismic impact of the area. So I thought that was very informative. It's fine.
Can you bring the other book?
Look at my thing.
Because I believe.
No, that would be too much. Oh
no! Let's put it on there.
No.
Drop it.
Look at that.
So you see?
So it doesn't smash on the table.
Look at that. That's really good.
I told you.
I told you believe in yourself.
From the
It's been fun.
I told you from you have the cross bursting in there.
Wow. Project C was the final assignment of the internship, and as a precursor, I was introduced to sketching, perspective drawing, and shading. I really enjoyed this project because it introduced me to a lot of new mediums like digital. I got to use my iPad for a lot of this project, and also I learned how to use a T-square for the first time. I was required to design an apartment within 50 square meters that included one bedroom, a walk-in closet, an ensuite bathroom, a kitchen, living, dining area, a balcony, laundry, and storage space. And for the presentation of this space, I had to show a concept inspiration image, a bubble diagram, which is a very conceptual layout of the space, a more detailed sketch done freehand, and finally the floor plan, which is drawn to the scale 1 to 50, along with a 3D axonometric drawing at 45 degrees. Using the T-square definitely came with a slight learning curve, but I would say one of the more difficult parts of this project was getting the dimensions all right and making sure there's enough space for somebody to move around and be comfortable in. So I had to be looking up a lot of dimensions just to make sure that things check out and the dimensions are actually accurate. After doing the drawings in construction lines, I had to go over it again in spatial and coplanar line weights just to make it pop and distinguish the lines. And those type of lines are essentially just thicker, and so it emphasizes certain planes. Last but not least was rendering, which is essentially just the architectural term for coloring and adding in more details. And then it was my last presentation day. I'm very happy with the way that my presentation turned out just because I got a lot of compliments on the visual appeal of my presentation. I'm very satisfied with how I rendered my project and even my line weighting. In the presentation, I walked through my apartment and explained the different spaces and the reasoning behind them. I also explained my interior design choices and color palette. Some of the flaws in my design and presentation were that the floor plan rooms weren't labeled. There was too much space in the apartment dedicated to storage, namely the pantry, the laundry space, and the closet. Took up a little bit too much space. Smaller things like the couch was a little too close to the TV, the fridge door was swinging the wrong way, making it inconvenient. Also, my concept image that I put into the presentation was not truly visually representative of the space.
I think it's clear, and we are impressed by both projects in that there is clarity of thought. So often I find very muddled thought, or we're just not thinking clearly. It's something that you need to have in architecture, that process and get into the clear point and representing it clearly. I have to give you particular kudos for a good looking presentation, which means that, and I think I said this also, that if it looks good, you've already started to pull me into it. You win.
I'm giving her all the clips, man. All the clips. She could do like a bloopers section at the end.
And they will just show that. Wow! I said, that wasn't supposed to happen.
You are obsessed with this
Just
drawing,
in-
I think.
No, not this one.
This
Dominic, remember the table is
Just
glass.
in- Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something you can on the floor.
No. No.
Because the first attempt went worse.
Try not to speak about negative things in
No.
presentations.
No, I like that.
But it's very, yeah.